Good evening and welcome to our forum for the North Kansas City School Board in the April 2nd election. This forum is sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Kansas City, Jackson, Clay, and Platte counties. I am Anitra Steele and I am a member of this league. The League of Women Voters is a trusted grassroots, nonpartisan organization whose members do the hands-on work to safeguard democracy. While we neither endorse nor oppose candidates or political parties, we are directly involved in sharing the important issues. Our mission is to empower voters and defend our democracy. We envision a democracy where every citizen has the knowledge, the right, the desire, and the confidence to participate. Our membership is open to everyone. I'd like you to know the League members volunteering with me. Cheryl Barnes is our timekeeper, and our Zoom is monitored by Laura Mountjoy. I lead the forum's admin team. The public has sent in the questions via the League's website, lwvkc.org, that you will be answering tonight. Tonight, our moderator is Elizabeth Darr. Welcome, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Anitra. I'm just delighted to join everybody for this North Kansas City School Board Candidate Forum. This is a little bit of an adventure for us. We have never had 9 candidates on our Zoom adventures before. And so we are very grateful for all 9 candidates being here. There are 4 seats. 3 seats are for the usual 3-year term, and 1 seat is for an expired 1-year term. Forums will last approximately 90 minutes. I'll ask each candidate the same questions selected from those submitted to the public. The order of candidate responses has been determined by random rotation. Each candidate will be given 60 seconds to respond to each question and 2 minutes for a closing statement. All of the candidates running for this office have been invited, and all of them are here this evening. We welcome the candidates participating in tonight's forum and appreciate their being here. This forum will be recorded and available on the League's webpage, lwvkc.org, and also on YouTube. Give us about 24 hours to get that up. Candidates, please answer the question asked and stick to the topic. There will be no rebuttals, but you may go back to an issue during your 2-minute closing statements. Is everybody ready?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The first question is going to go to Tammy first. Please introduce yourself and tell us about your qualifications to be on the Board of Education.
Hey, my name is Tammy McFerrin. I am running for the 1-year term. I've attended the North Kansas City schools, as have my children and my grandchildren. I volunteered in numerous classrooms as both my children and my grandchildren have gone through school. I've served in several leadership roles in the PTAs and on booster clubs. In addition to my direct experience with most of the schools within the district, I've also an experienced board member. I've held leadership roles in various community and national associations and boards over the past 30 years, including most recently the City of Gladstone. My background is in audit and compliance in the financial industry. I'm currently a small business owner. I bring an understanding of regulations and laws and how to work collaboratively with all stakeholders to get things done. My skill set includes working cooperatively by actively listening to all stakeholders and then working together toward the best solution. I'm running for a seat on the Board of Education because as a parent, grandparent, small business owner, I understand the importance of a high quality education and strong schools.
Thank you. Jan Koch?
Yes, I'm not seeing the timer again.
I'll wave at you when it's 15 seconds.
Thank you very much. So I'm Jan Kalk. I am running for a 1-year term as well. I am absolutely passionate about North Kansas City schools and all public education. I believe I bring a steady hand of experience, having served on our school board for the last 14 years. I currently serve as the board's president. My professional experience is in youth development, mental health services, and in community building. I do have an MBA, and I'm very comfortable with the operational side of governance of the second largest school district in the state of Missouri. I'm a collaborator, and I believe strongly in our district's mission to be a champion for all students while supporting our staff. I do believe that strong schools help build strong communities, and I am honored to have the opportunity to serve our district again.
Thank you. Very succinct. Erin Peters?
Thank you. Yes, my name is Erin Peters. I was born and raised right here in the Northland. I actually attended Chapel Hill, Antioch Middle School, and I graduated from Oak Park High School. I have 3 children currently in the district. I have a daughter in the elementary schools, another daughter at middle school, and my son is currently in high school. After graduating from Oak Park, I attended Truman State University, where I got my bachelor's in Spanish. I then went on to earn my master's degree in education from Rockhurst University, and I have my education specialist degree in secondary administration and leadership from Northwest Missouri State University. I spent more than 10 years in the high school classroom teaching upper level dual credit AP Spanish courses. I also taught at the university level for 2 years, and I currently hold a K-12 lifetime teaching certification in the state of Missouri. Currently, my current role is I'm the manager of the client engagement team for True Home Solutions, where I use my relationship skills and communication skills to work with executives at credit unions around the country. I'm just really excited to share to share and serve and use those as a fusion to support and serve our students.
Thank you very much.
North Kansas City. Sorry.
Jane Reinhardt, can you introduce yourself, please?
Certainly. My name is Jane Reinhardt. I was born and raised in South Louisiana, but for the last umpty-ump years, I've lived in Missouri. I went to Eastgate, North Kansas City High School, and Oak Park. Thank you, North Kansas City, for changing the boundaries so often. I'm originally, like I said, I went to LSU. I have my bachelor's. My master's is from the University of Oklahoma and an ed specialist degree from UMKC, which is to say my parents spent way too much money educating me. My main qualifications, aside from having served on the board for 2 terms, I'm currently the vice president on the board, but I've been a classroom teacher in the Kansas City, Missouri School District for a number of years. I've also taught in charter schools, taught in New Mexico, Illinois, and Missouri. So I bring my classroom experience, I think, is the biggest asset that I bring to the table to be on the Board of Education. Thank you.
Thank you. Susan Hines?
Hello, my name is Susan Hines, and I'm currently serving on the board in an interim seat. My background in standardized assessment, I was in that industry for almost 20 years. My current role as an executive talent and leadership partner at Siemens Corporation, which is approximately 300,000 in a digital and technology company. And my early career as an ESL teacher. That combination of skills, I think, makes me uniquely qualified to bring a different and wider perspective to the school board. I have very much enjoyed the service, my service so far. It has been one of the most gratifying experiences of my life. And because I grew up as a non-native speaker, my first language is not English. I was born in Korea and grew up benefiting from public education. I have those experiences of learning and being a part of what all the great public education can do for you.
Thank you. Joe Jacobs.
Hi, I'm Joe Jacobs. I'm a lifelong resident of the district. I'm a graduate of Winnetonka High School. I was a teacher in the district. I have an MBA in human resources and business management. I previously served on the Board of Education for 30 years before not running for re-election. I love our North Kansas City schools community and want to continue my part in providing the best educational experiences for students, teachers, staff, and families. During the 30 years that I was on the board, I had these 4 pillars: be a champion for all kids in all situations, be an unwavering advocate for teachers with regard to retention, pay, workload planning time, and mental well-being, be a staunch supporter for safety and security initiatives to keep students and staff safe, and being a fiscally responsible steward of the budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Brock Foley?
Hello, I'm Brock Foley. I am a local attorney and a small business owner. I opened my own legal practice. I'm also the father of 4 children, 2 of whom are students in the North Kansas City School District, one in first grade and one in pre-K at the Early Education Center. I believe in public service, and I have always wanted to be a part of local government, and that's why I'm running. I volunteer a lot in my role as an attorney. I've worked with community organizations in that capacity. I also bring with me a more recent education experience. I grew up with smartphones. I grew up with social media. I grew up in a world where a bachelor's degree and a law degree are not a one-way ticket to a great job. So I bring with me the experience of a changing world, and I hope that I can bring that experience to the benefit of our students in the North Kansas City School District.
Thank you. Tirda Day?
Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Tirda Day, and thanks for the opportunity to be here tonight. I had some technical difficulty. I switched from my computer to my phone. Quick background about me. I'm a parent. I have 2 children. My daughter is a student in the district. And a background about me, this is my 16th year as a civil servant with the Army. And also I've been teaching at the university for about 15 years. I teach organizational leadership and research courses. I've also been involved with policy writing and accreditation at national level, reviewing university programs for since 2010, so about 14 years. Additionally, I've written 15 books for the Army. I published a children's book last year, and I just had my most recent research was just published with the Library of Congress. It was a 6-year research and was mainly dealing with the cognitive development and complexities in decision making.
Thank you very much. We're going to have to
thank
go
you.
on. Roy Copeland.
Thank you for the opportunity to get a chance to say hello. And so I want to thank you for this forum. My name is Roy Copeland III, and I am first a father. I have a 2nd grader at Davison Elementary School, as well as an 8th grader at Northgate Middle School. I'm a small business owner on my own State Farm agency here in the Northland in Gladstone. And then also, too, my third thing is I'm a huge advocate. When you've sat in these seats before and gone through public education, you understand the nuance, and then understand also, too, what those decisions make, that we all sit in those seats and that we have to help. And that's what's important to me. I want to bring all those aspects of not only working in business, but then also working with different community leaders and also different community organizations, not only in the Northland, but across Kansas City, and bring that experience to the board. I am proud to say that I am public school through Central High School, as well as Penn Valley Community College, and graduated from Lincoln University with my master's in sociology. And I look forward to telling you all more about myself.
Thank you. Nicely done, everybody. So Jan, you're going to be the first one on this next question.
All right.
What do you think schools should do to prepare students to be better members of the global community?
There.
You're up.
Okay, very good. Yes, in North Kansas City schools, we have a model of competencies called Portrait of a Graduate. It includes a variety of qualities: adaptability, communication skills, empathy, integrity, learner's mindset, problem solving, and collaboration, which I feel are essential for students to be global citizens. I also believe it's really critical for students to continue to learn to use technology and to learn to look at data and information and begin to discern where truth is and where accuracy is and where the opportunities are to use that for learning experiences outside of their immediate realm. I think connection across the world is our biggest opportunity with students, and helping them access that and feel comfortable in global community is critical. Thank you.
Thank you. Joe, you're next.
Thank you very much. Just as Jan said, there are a couple programs within the district that are very important. Pathways or college and career preparedness is one of them. What I like about it is it brings real world experiences into the classroom in the areas of human services, business, health, and technology. We embrace about 500 partners to come into our classroom to give real and relevant advice and instructions to our kids. As was said before, technology helps bring the rigor, but it also makes learning fun. It gives higher engagement. It prepares them for the future because technology is different than it was 30 years ago or even 10 years ago. Collaboration is important to that, and communications.
Thank you. Roy, what are your thoughts on the global community?
On the global community, was the question, or
What do you think schools should do to prepare students to be better members of the global community?
Thank you so much again for telling me the question one more time. It's our job to make sure that we're preparing them to be successful adults. Now, how does that look? That looks at us trying to give them basic skills that once they get out in the world, number one, that they have basic skills on understanding not only money matters, but then also too, how to be able to do just basic functions in the job. We have to be able to set our students up for success, not only in the mental health space, but then also as well too, is if they are going out to want to work and not go to college, that we can support them with plenty of vocational programs as well too. The biggest thing is for us to set them up globally is to be able to give them the confidence to make sound decisions, but then also to understand that it's not just about the decisions that they make, but then that they can make mistakes and let them also have an opportunity to be children as well too. So how we set them up is utilize a lot of the programs that we have going on right now and making sure that they have the knowledge of those programs and then giving them the confidence to succeed in those programs as well too.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, ma'am. It's actually a very good question because I used to be academic director in a special operation and we would teach the special operators about some of this part of this question. And that part is global awareness. I think we need to educate our students about global issues such as sustainability, social justice, economic development, help them to understand interconnectedness of the world and the implication of some of those global scale issues that we have. We also need to teach our students cross-cultural teamwork, helping them to foster collaboration, and in a diverse team that simulates the real world working environment. Another thing is the entrepreneurial mindset, helping our students, encouraging them to think in innovative ways, outside the box, through maybe internship or study abroad. That would be another way to look at it, or virtual exchanges with the international students. I think that would be another way to look at them. So also,
thank you very much.
Into global network.
Thank you. Thank you. Jane?
I think of ways that the schools could better prepare students is an overall broader perspective of the world. I'd love for our students to have the opportunity to be bilingual, and that even includes programming as a language. A lot of schools are now accepting that as a way of expression. That's great. I think the technology that Joe talked about is important. I think it's changing every 10 minutes. We were at a program today that was talking about the new data center here in Kansas City. And I think that the global prospects of that and introducing our students to that is going to be a great way of expanding their horizons. I think travel is huge for making students realize that we are not just living in our own little nests anymore, that we need to reach out within the state and expanding even further to that. Giving them volunteer opportunities, even in lesser countries, or lesser developed countries, I think would be a great opportunity too. Thank you.
Thank you. Susan?
There are so many different ways that we can help our students become better and more aware of how to show up and be good citizens in the global community. Fortunately, we live in a district that has a lot of the world that has come to us. So we have more than 100 languages spoken in our district. And there are many daily opportunities that our students have to interact with people who come from different countries and different worlds. In addition to the Portrait of a Graduate foundational people power skills that we have for students in our district, I think it's really important for us to also identify ways, as Jane mentioned, for people to travel and live abroad. So one of the best experiences I had was as a middle school student. I lived with a host family in Japan for a couple of weeks. And let me tell you, that was the fastest way for me to learn how to communicate using language other than English, and find ways to go beyond and work through my discomfort and connect with someone else.
Thank you. Brock?
Yeah, I think what we want our students coming out of school ready to do is ready to contribute. They're still young. Coming out of high school, we're still 18-year-olds, we're still teenagers. And so we have a lot of growing left to do, but we want to be prepared to contribute. And what does society need from contributors? We need our students to have social skills. We need to be able to communicate with each other, whether that's in college or in a career or traveling, whatever you're doing. Our students need to have experienced awkward social situations. They need to have learned how to make friends, to communicate with teachers and coworkers, and they need to be able to use email, obviously, and utilize technology to continue to grow their network. So when I think of how I want my students to be prepared coming out of school, it's ready to contribute and ready to communicate and start building a network and start working together.
Thank you. Tammy?
In addition to several of the things that have already been brought up, we are very, very lucky to be located in the Midwest and where we are today. We have a lot of technology and a lot of global community coming to us here. It was mentioned the data center that is coming into the Northland that will be bringing a lot of global workers in that we'll be interacting with. We already speak over 100+ languages within our school district, so the opportunity for bilingual and diversity for our students to take advantage of all of that. We need to also incorporate those small businesses and large businesses and listen to them for what they want in our graduating students in order to be career ready to go to work for them. At the school board meeting just the other evening, we had a representation of animatronics. That is something that is a very futuristic career goal for our students. So I just want to make sure that all of our students are able to take advantage of that through the curriculum within the district.
Thank you. Erin?
Hi, thank you. So I love this question. I think the world is getting smaller all the time. So it's irresponsible for us not to think of everything in global aspects. So as some people have already mentioned, you know, the ideas of Portrait of a Graduate and the college and career readiness that we have at North Kansas City Schools, you know, first comes to mind. And the fact that we are connecting with so many businesses and things in the area that can give our children those opportunities. And especially if you haven't seen this news story yet about, and I believe Jane mentioned it, you know, Google is bringing a new data center here, and that's going to be partnering with North Kansas City Schools as a reimagined alt ed program. So just having those connections is an amazing opportunity. If you haven't read that story, I encourage you to check it out. Also, technology being a global language, programs, like we've said, we speak over 100 languages here. So there's cultural fairs at the different schools, the travel. You know, my daughter is actually going to Scandinavia next year with her middle school. They're going to Japan. These opportunities are out there and we've got to keep up with that. So very exciting.
Thank you very much. And Roy, this next question, you'll be the first one on. North Kansas City has an attendance rate of 77.1%, which is down from 98.3% in 2021, according to the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Attendance rates have been falling throughout the area. How can the problem of attendance be addressed?
I think we first have to actually dig deep and look and see what's causing students not to want to come to school, and also identify that on an individual basis and not try to do a broad stroke. Each and every student has different individual issues that may come up. Now, there may be a overall larger problem, but I think it actually starts from us individually identifying, okay, what are some of these driving forces, whether it be transportation, whether it be other situations that are happening at home for them not to have an opportunity to come to school. But it does first take, number one, understanding that we have a problem, and then really breaking it down per school and not really trying to wide brush it, to figure out what better solutions we can come up with to try to get the students to school. Thank you.
Thank you. Susan?
I think it really highlights a need for us to continue to pursue with vigor alternative education programming that will meet the needs of our students. So what is very clear in the pre-pandemic and the post-pandemic numbers is that there are still a lot of challenges that students and families are facing, and perspectives that are changing on what it looks like to get an education. It doesn't necessarily mean time in your seat 8 hours a day, every day. So we need to continue to pursue that. And I'm very confident and trust our school administration in the ways that they're already exploring that. So I think it highlights and underscores a need for us to pursue as vigorously as possible what those alternative education programming needs are, so that we can continue to do our best to meet students where they're at and meet families where they're at, so that we can provide the best possible educational experience for them.
Thank you. Erin?
Yeah, I agree. We're going to have to kind of dig in to find the causes of this. I mean, I think it's fairly obvious in the dates that are given that this is, pandemic related. And I think Susan made a really good point that, during the pandemics, that really changed our perspectives on, that sitting in a classroom for 8 hours a day, is that really necessary? So it kind of makes me wonder, getting back into figuring out what the causes are. Is it because some people think that, well, it's okay, I don't need to go to school today because I can do it online. My teacher's putting everything online. So I think that would be really interesting to kind of dig in. And I also agree that I know that this is something that the administration at the different buildings are really starting to dig into and kind of figure out, because attendance equals dollars. So we've got to figure out how to make sure that we have kids at school. So I know that that's something that they are working on. But I do think that it's important, as it was also mentioned as well, to look at the, school by school and to really dig into what the reasonings are as to why kids aren't coming to school, and then figure out how we can create alternative options if necessary.
Thank you. Joe?
You bet. As has been mentioned, prior to the pandemic, we were probably in the 90 percentile of attendance. And what has happened, as was mentioned, has suffered after the pandemic. We do need to focus on the whys, the why to students not coming to school. I know that it takes a lot of time, but I think it's important that we contact parents or caregivers in order to understand why their students not coming to school. And it may be that they don't even know that their students not coming to school. The district offers a variety of instructional methods, and sometimes we need to take time to marry the need of the student to the instructional method that is available to them. And then sometimes we just need to break down barriers to students attending, such as transportation, clothing, food, etc. There may be reasons, and we just need to understand them.
Thank you. Brock?
Yeah, my first thought is I'd be curious to know age breakdowns and if most of the students with lower attendance are high school students, or if they're elementary students. That would be helpful to looking for a solution. And my second thought is, along with Joe, reach out to parents and caregivers and try to find out what's happening at home, try to figure out what we can do to help to get parents and caregivers more involved in their children's education, because when parents are involved, I'm sure we'll see better attendance numbers. My final thought is just school needs to be valuable. And so if people have stopped attending school, then there's always the question, do they feel like their time is being wasted at school? And if they do, what do we need to do to make sure time at school is valuable for our students?
Thank you. Tammy?
Okay. I agree with most of what I've already heard. We need to find the root cause. We need to ask why and maybe why again. We need to talk to parents. We need to talk to caregivers. We also need to talk to students. I agree with Brock. If the parents get involved and you're talking about maybe the elementary or the middle school children, once they're involved, I'm sure the kids will show up. But once you start talking about high school, there's a lot of autonomy with those teens. So finding out why they aren't attending, maybe it's something as simple as was mentioned before. Maybe it's clothing, maybe it's transportation, maybe it's something else. Maybe they've fallen so far behind, they feel embarrassed to be there. So again, asking why and why and why again. And then once we have those answers, making sure that we have alternative options or solutions in order to meet those kids where they're at and provide motivation for them to attend. What's in it for them? Why is it a good thing for them to be at school and to attend daily? Thank you.
Dear Doug?
Yes, ma'am, thank you. I tell you, as an educator for two decades and coach for about 3 decades, I really love all the answers. It shows the caliber of all the 9 candidates running. So, like everyone else says, I think we should identify the root cause of the issue. It might be some transportation issue, or maybe health concerns, or lack of engagement, or bullying, or family issues. Like everyone else said. But what I would also add to what everyone else said also is that maybe we implement early intervention to identifying what's going on so we can intervene, utilizing technology. So maybe we can track attendance and communicate with families and provide maybe remote learning options. We need to also maybe offer flexible learning options that provide alternative learning pathways to the students. And also maybe we can collaborate with our community partners that they can provide additional resources to support the students. And I think these are all very important, but providing those support services, I think, such as counseling,
Thank you. Your
mentoring,
time
or
is up.
support services.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jan?
Could you share the data that you just shared at the beginning again, please, with me?
Yeah, sure. This comes from DESE, and if my memory serves, this was from 2023. Attendance was 77.1, but in 2021, it was 98.3%.
Okay. Well, Jane and I both participated in a conversation around attendance. It is a key issue, as Erin said. It really affects the funding for our school, but more important, students fall behind without adequate attendance. The things that I think are most important to look at is how engaging and how meaningful are the lessons, if it's in high school or middle school, that the kids feel like they need to be participating and they don't want to miss school. Is it individualized in meeting their needs? Are we making connections with parents about the reasons that they are missing? We have online options, and sometimes that works really well for students, and sometimes students are falling behind. But again, thinking about the individualized opportunities and how it's counted at the state is if a student is in class or not. I know we have really ramped up our calling and small teacher group communications with our students have helped this as well.
Thank you. Jane?
Thank you.
Thank you. This is not just a North Kansas City School District problem. It is nationwide. A lot of school districts are looking into this right now. Recently, there was a program I watched that showed a school district back east, and what they had done was to go to it's not quite a social worker, and it's definitely not a truant officer, but when somebody from the school knocks at the house, they know the children from when they were in school. They reach out to the parents, they find out the whys that everybody's talked about, and then there's a sincere effort to see about getting that child back in school. So I think that's definitely a step in the right direction that we need to take. many times these parents may not realize how bad it really is until somebody stands in front of them and says, did you realize that your child has missed this many days of school? And it's like, oh, golly, I really need to get on that. So there are a lot of steps that other school districts are taking, and I think we're looking at those seriously.
Thank you. And so as a heads up, Joe, you're up for the next one. What do you believe is the best way to support teachers in the classroom?
Thank you very much. I have a whole list of ways to support teachers. One is, as a school district and a school board, we need to make sure that the teachers have the necessary resources in the classroom, such as materials, equipment, and support in a variety of ways. We need to make sure that we check their workload and understand the conditions that they are working in, and they're, depending on what school, those working conditions could be different. I think it's very important to celebrate successes of our teachers, offer them professional development and ongoing training. I think it's important for administrators to check on the wellness of their employees and the balance, their work-life balance. Of course, pay, benefits, allow their creativity in the classroom. And I think it's important to listen to them and at all possibilities to involve them in decisions.
Thank you. Tirda, what are your thoughts?
Thank you. This is actually one of the pillars of my campaign, and that's one is the teacher salary. So I think one is also resource allocation. It's very important to have teachers have adequate access to resources and materials they need, because teaching is work of love. How many teachers we know they spend from their own pocket and they bring supplies to the classroom? So making sure they have what they need, classroom management, I think offer them training, and that can also lead to retention, because right now there are some retention issues, and those be losing teachers that they have a continuity of service in the district. And money is not everything. Sometimes with professional development, we can offer instructors, teachers to stay in an area, offering the teachers emotional mental support, because they're under lots of stress these days. So helping them to cope with that, because they're also part of our community. And continuous feedback and evaluation, some giving them technology integration in their classroom, and parent and community.
Thank you very much. Your time's up. Jane?
Well, having been a classroom teacher, I can tell you some of the things that would really, really help. First of all, not putting lots more initiatives in place without taking some other stuff away, not putting more responsibility on the classroom teacher without saying, okay, we want you to do this, but guess what? The other thing that you had to do, we're going to take away now. We're going to take care of that for you. So enabling teachers to manage their classroom time better is huge. Taking care of, if a teacher says, you know, I'm having a problem with this child, I've called home, I haven't had any help with that. I've gone to the counselor, and now it needs, somebody else needs to step in and deal with a particular problem issue. Stress reducers are great. Things that make the life a little bit easier. We're using a lot more pairs than we used to use, and that's helpful to have another adult person in the classroom. Lastly, I would say, you know what? Massages are great. They really help everybody feel better, reduce stress. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. I know you just got a lot of more votes with the massage thing. Susan?
I agree with a lot of what Jane mentioned. I think first and foremost, it's removing barriers to teaching, which includes providing additional support, counselors, social workers, and paras who help to manage kids who are having issues that go beyond academics, so that they can be helped in the ways that they need to. Second is lessening the burden and time. And so we need to hold ourselves accountable as a district and in our administration to make sure that we're keeping ourselves accountable to managing workloads. And so teachers are feeling overwhelmed. A lot of them are also parents and wearing other hats. And so whatever we can do to whip out our can of Marie Kondo to, remove barriers and bring some joy with simplicity, I think will do a lot to help teachers. And last but not least, I think it's also about supporting parents and the ecosystem that works around teachers so that they also feel supported from parents as well.
Thank you. Jan?
Yes. I think there's several things. Annually, we do a survey and ask our teachers what's important to them. So I think listening to teachers is probably one of the most critical things because it can change from time to time. However, professional development is highly valued, and we do have a lot of changes in our education environment. So that is helpful in helping them keep on top of their profession. Additionally, providing recognition, even in the small steps and the daily things that happen, I think are really critical to keeping a teacher centered on and supported. I think supporting the administration in a building and helping them be good managers for teachers is also very helpful because there's a lot of things that go on in a day that a teacher needs support. Classroom management skills and behavior skills are another thing that teachers value. And the last, again, I'll just reiterate, supporting parents to work with their teachers.
Thank you. Roy?
Thank you so much. Well, the first thing, and I echo what my other colleagues have said as well too, but is listen to the people that are doing the work, which are the teachers. But I do want to actually take a step back and also making sure that we're meeting the needs of the support staff as well too, how that's either counselors, paraprofessionals, and additional staff members that are in the building. Are we meeting their pay and making sure that they're having an adequate wage as well too, so they can do the job and also to understand how that ecosystem works. The next thing is I love recognition. You've got to make sure that you're recognizing everyone and then actually doing it in creative ways. It just doesn't have to be paid, but just taking the time to make sure that you're recognizing what they're doing, the day in and day out work of that. And then the last thing I would definitely say is making sure that we're involving the parents, and then not only the parents, but the administration as well too. And making sure that we're supporting them through other initiatives, meaning either continuing education in different districts and ways that they're doing things as well too. Thank you.
Thank you. Brock?
Yeah, I think right off the bat, I think pay and benefits for teachers is incredibly important, and that needs to be something that's a very high priority at all times. I will also say the reason people become teachers is not to get rich. We know that. The reason become teachers is because they want to do something good in the world, right? They want to help students. They want to be a part of something bigger than themselves, which public education definitely is. This is a great opportunity to commit your life to something that's bigger than you. And so I really admire what teachers do. And that's the reason I think people become teachers. So if life is harder for teachers, and if we're seeing the burnout and we're seeing the turnover and we're seeing the early retirement, which we are, what's stopping them from feeling like they're making a difference? And I think that can come from us, that can come from the district and increased demands, but what's stopping them from feeling like they're making a positive difference in the world?
Thank you. Erin?
Yes, as a high school classroom teacher for more than 10 years, I just have to kind of think back, kind of how Jane said, and just think, as I was in the classroom, what was I needing at that time? And benefits and pay kind of come out, always. But as Brock just mentioned, none of us went into the profession thinking that we were going to be making a lot of money. That was part of it. We went into it because we loved kids, we loved our subjects, and we wanted to be part of something bigger. Several things came to mind immediately. The first one was resources. Again, just making sure that the teachers have the resources that they need to do what they need to do. Time is the other one, giving them the time to do it because there's so many different things. Professional development goes a long way, and teachers love that time to collaborate when they're actually given the time to collaborate, to work together on the things. I think Joe mentioned creativity. That comes to mind, to be able to do all of those things. Celebrating and listening and recognizing are huge. Teachers love that. Teachers need that. It's hard being in the classroom. And then, of course, listening to them and creating that support system all around them: parents, administrators, paras, and counselors.
Thank you. And Tammy?
It's hard to come up with new things after listening to the other choices. I agree with everything that is said, but I think the most important part is we need to ask and then actively listen. Listen to what those answers are and listen to what may be underneath some of those answers. One of the things that comes to mind is that when we have a plate, we're told we're supposed to have 6 ounces of protein and 2 servings of veggies and a serving of fruit, etc. We should also make sure that our teachers' plates are appropriate, that they don't have too many veggies or too many sweets or too many something else on their plate, that it is appropriate. The workload is what is needed in order to support our students, to give the educational curriculum what is needed in order for them to teach, but also to give them the time that they need to do all of those things, that so that they are healthy, both physically and mentally. No one can give back to students or their families even if they aren't healthy mentally and physically. Thank you.
Thank you. Brock, the next question you'll be first to answer. The question is charter school expansion, open enrollment, and private school vouchers are current hot topics in the Missouri legislature. What are your views on the school choice movement?
I'm glad I get to answer this question first. You know, I think school choice is, well, first of all, would make the lives of everyone in the North Kansas City School District, and I think every school district, a lot more difficult, just managing that change. I think, it's hard for me to look at, I don't know, for example, Independence, where they're having struggles having enough teachers to teach all of their classes and where they had to go to a 4-day school week and think, we have an amazing school district, we have great facilities, and think, it would be an awesome opportunity for some students from Independence possibly to transfer to a North Kansas City school district and to get a more stable education. But thankfully that's out of my hands in the legislature. I just know whatever happens, North Kansas City School District, we need to be prepared and come up with a competent response. So
thank you. Erin?
Honestly, I hear these three things: charter school expansion, open enrollment, and vouchers. And the first thing that comes to my mind is chaos. I don't think that those are the ways to go. I think that our legislators need to be thinking more in terms of, okay, how can we, expand, how can we just give education, more money and be devoting more money to our district so that they can be fixing the things within their own district that they have the power to do. I think that, open enrollment, that just opens up a whole can of worms where you're going to have people, you're going to be trying to bus kids in different places and get people to different places. I don't think that that's a good thing for anybody. Vouchers, again, if you're giving students vouchers, that's taking money out of the hands of the public schools and moving us in a direction that we don't want to be going. So I think that these are not good for our kids, they're not good for our district, and something that I would be working with legislators to make sure that we go a different direction and find another solution.
Thank you. Susan?
Strong public schools are the foundation of a strong democratic society. So I do not believe that any of these movements or initiatives underway are supporting strong public schools. I think in a lot of ways it's undermining the work that we're doing. The power of public education lies in its ability to to connect students with opportunities, and to do that in a way that is equitable. And so by introducing these different mechanisms to siphon money away from public schools, it's actually creating a world where there are fewer choices and fewer freedoms that are afforded to the whole of the population. So I don't support those movements in any way. And I think in many ways it will actually continue to distract us from what's really important, which is supporting strong public schools.
Thank you. Tammy?
Public schools are created for the public good, to create strong communities, to make sure that all children have an equal education. if there's charter expansion, if there's legislation out there from their constituents asking for vouchers for private schools, and one of the things not mentioned was homeschoolers. That's another area that seems to be growing significantly in the North Kansas City School District. How can we make the district provide the value that these people or these parents are looking elsewhere for? We're providing pathways now. We now have our business partnerships so that our students are more career ready when they leave, whether it's to attend a profession for a professional education, by going to a college, by getting technical or vocational education, or doing something different. We're giving them opportunities to experiment. So in order to combat that, rather than just going to legislation and saying no, I think we need to be looking at the constituents and finding out why. We need to find out how we can bring more value to bring them back into the fold for the North Kansas City School District.
Thank you. Roy?
Thank you so much. Those are going to be pressures that any public school district is going to have to deal with right now. Just that's the reality of the world that we're in right now. But I would take the attitude of what can we do better to make sure that we are promoting what we're doing well in those areas. And actually, I agree with Tammy about really diving into saying what are those reasons that are causing the underlying issues for these issues to be coming up. In North Kansas City, we are doing some really good things in all three areas, but then are we promoting it and are we making sure that we're meeting all the needs of those students and parents that are requesting these things of their legislators? So the reality is that we've got to continue to keep promoting what we're doing well, and then also continue to keep pushing the programs that we have so that everybody understands all the programs that we have available to all the students and families. Thank you.
Thank you. Tier Dodd?
Really good question. I'm actually a scientific advisory board for private school too, as a volunteer honorary member. But my primary focus would be commitment to the public education as a board member, strengthening and improving our public school system, and that to ensure every student has access to high quality education. I would advocate for adequate funding, resources, and support for public school to making sure that we meet the diverse needs of our students. I will also work with the legislation, advocate legislation to making sure that we actively engage with efforts of local, state, and national level. And I actually have bring that experience already with my background to the table right now, because I'm actually part of, like I said earlier, part of National Security Education Consortium. And also we need to recognize the parental choice, addressing the parental choice, recognizing that parents may seek alternative schooling rather than traditional public system. So understanding how we can help them through collaboration.
Thank you.
So those are
Your time is up. Thank you very much. Jane?
This is something I feel very strongly about. I was part of a district that started a lot of work with charter schools and school choices, not quite so much with vouchers, and it basically gutted the school district. Anybody that could got their child out of the public school, put them in charter schools, and going back into the high school where I had taught before was like going back into something that the Dementors had just sucked all the life out of that school. And I don't think we can afford that in this country. And in Arizona, where they've done a lot with vouchers and homeschooling and school of choice, they've had the same problem. It's taken resources away from the public school. It's made life a lot harder for a lot of people. The creme de la creme gets taken away, and it's very, very difficult to try to make that turn around. And I think that's what we're seeing in our own backyard south of the river. And it's a very difficult situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Joe?
Thank you. I've been an advocate for public education for a long time. And one of the legislative priorities for North Kansas City schools is opposing the expansion of charter schools in the state of Missouri. And I absolutely agree. I'm simply not in favor of using public dollars to support charter schools. I believe that they need to stay with your local public school district. I also believe that the chartered schools are not held to the same standards as far as curriculum, student achievement, and standards. Or I also believe that they don't have to be as transparent as public schools. And I believe that's important. But above all, I believe in community schools. I believe students benefit when they attend the school in their neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. And Jan.
Yes, well, I do believe parents should be given a right for what they believe is best for their child to do. However, I do not believe it should be on the back of public schools. I think public schools have the calling of bringing equity and opportunity to every child in this nation, and I feel like that is a right for children to receive excellence in public education, that it brings value and it brings opportunity and a diversity of choice. I think North Kansas City Schools has worked very hard to up its offerings, to be very diverse in the choices that students and parents can make to equally participate across all of our schools, and to make those high quality and excellent offerings that the kids can get the best education possible in the public school. I think that's our opportunity to compete against. I also believe we should work very closely with our legislators.
Thank you.
To understand that. Thank you.
For our next question, Jane, this will go first to you. How would you like to see book challenges handled in the classroom and the library, elementary and secondary schools?
I recently, well, actually it was over a year ago, I attended the Missouri State Board of Education. I went to a special program that was on book challenges, looking at what other districts were doing. We had a rather nebulous policy at the time, and one of the things that we did at our summer workshop for the board was to talk about what these challenges should look like. And we put a policy in place that one book could only be challenged once every 5 years. We put a policy in place that one individual could only challenge one book at a time. That being said, I think it is a parent's right to say, I don't want my child to read a particular book, and they have every right to opt out of reading a book. The same thing if the library situation, I mean, in teaching a particular work of literature, a parent should have the right to opt out if they don't want their child to read that literature. Those are options for them. I think the policies are in place, and I think they're good policies.
Thank you. Brock?
Yeah, I think the North Kansas City School District has done a really good job with this particularly divisive issue. Me personally, if when my children have books that I may or may not agree with, I'll read them with them, and we can discuss them and see how they align with our family's values. I am huge on parental choice. I think parents need to have the opportunity to say, this is so offensive to me. I don't want my child to read it. But I think generally being subjected or being educated on other people's opinions and having challenging ideas presented to you is a good thing, and that's an important part of education. I will also say, I talked to a teacher friend recently about this particular issue, and she was telling me all the steps she has to take now when there's concerns with a book and how much more difficult it's making her life. So I do worry with this issue that this is just one of those things that we're adding more work to teachers that's kind of unnecessary, and we're making teachers' lives more difficult.
Thank you. Roy?
I echo what everybody else has actually shared as well too. I do believe in parent choice, and if you do have an issue with that as well too, then so be it. You can address it with the teacher, and then you can make that decision on that you want to pull that book back. But the policy that was put in place that Jane talked about is a great policy. The once every 5 years, and one person can challenge a book in that time frame. It's not our job, as far as in with parents, to sit there and to subject our views onto district policy on there. So the reality is, for that, the policy is good that's in place, and I'm proud of the district for doing that. but also too, if there is a situation that they can address that with the teacher, and also too, if it's a bigger thing, that with the building administrators. Thank you.
Thank you. Jan?
Yes, I'm very pleased with our proactive policy. We were working prior without it, and it has really helped provide some support. I really trust our educators and our librarians that are doing the screening, and feel like that they have given opportunities for mirrors and windows, as they say, for students to see and find books that reflect them, as well as give them opportunities and windows into the world. That said, I do firmly believe that parents have choices, and our technology right now in our libraries do support that. If a parent restricts a book from a child, we will know automatically. The librarian will see a red flag and not allow that child to have that particular book. And I think that is the most fair way for all of our parents and all of our children to have the books that they choose to read, and that opens the doors to the world to them.
Thank you. Erin?
Yeah, so as others have said, and Jane mentioned first, the board created a policy when this became a super hot topic in the last few years. School board came together, created the policy, and now it's the school board's responsibility really to support the superintendent and the staff at the different schools to just make sure we continue to uphold these policies and procedures that we've already put in place for these. As it's been mentioned, if parents have concerns on specific texts, there's procedures that they can request books to be removed, ask for alternate assignments for their kids, or as well as they can follow to request certain books not be allowed. As Jan just said, get a red flag out there, because parents should have the opportunity to decide what their kids should and shouldn't be exposed to based on their backgrounds and things. But as said, we've done the best that we can. There's a great policy out there, and it's going to be our responsibility as the board to uphold that policy and review their policies, of course, as time progresses.
Thank you. Dear Dot?
Yes, ma'am. This is a hot topic, right? I would call the wicked problem. So as a Christian, I have my own personal values, but as a board member, we are the representative value and beliefs of our community. So I agree with everyone. I think we need to have a parent involvement and communication, foster open communication with parents about the school book selection process and curriculum content, and the policy regarding those challenge materials. But however, I think we need to provide parents with alternative assignments, so we respect the right of the parents, so we can guide their children their reading choices, and making sure they have alternative materials if they want to do alternative assignments if they're not okay with a specific reading or book. I also think that the school needs to have a clear policy and procedure addressing the book challenges, outlining exactly the criteria, evaluating the challenges and processes, and also we need to making sure the books are age appropriate. I think that's really key. And doing so, we need to seek professional expertise, maybe from our librarian. And
thank you very much. Your time is up.
For classroom.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Joe?
Well, North Kansas City School, they hire the best and the brightest to look into materials that are best for our students. And they have a district committee that reviews and selects age and instructionally appropriate books for students in the school libraries and in the classrooms. And when parents bring a concern to the district, it's worth a discussion with them. It's worth time to listen and understand why they feel the way they do about some book or some material. Parents that believe their students should not read materials that required certainly should be understood, should be again listened to, but there is a process for them to ultimately sign a waiver so that their student does not have to use that material. These processes and safeguards seem to work well, and I appreciate what NKC Schools has done.
Thank you. Tammy?
I echo what Joe just said. Our teachers and our librarians are professionals. They are picking literary works that they feel our students need to be exposed to and will help in their education and their global learning as they go forward. I also firmly believe that parental choice is very important. They are the ones charged with raising their children with their family values, societal values, and within religious norms with which they conform to. One of the things that I think is really that North Kansas City School District has put in place is the ability to block certain books from the library. Perhaps if the libraries were able to publish all of those books, parents could go in at the beginning of the year, choose anything they felt were offensive, and then not allow their child to check it out. Perhaps teachers, instead of having to deal with this every time they come up with another subject or the subject changes in there, they could publish a syllabus at the beginning of the school year. That way, any concerns of parents could be dealt with up front and alternatives could come up so students aren't embarrassed, but parents are still happy.
Thank you.
you.
And Susan.
Yes, I echo everything that was said about the book issue. I think it really came to a head in 2021, 2022. And what I appreciate about our district and our board is the level of transparency that they operate under, their willingness to listen and to really understand and go deep into the issue and figure out a path forward that makes it possible for there to be parent choice with parent accountability. So with choice, we need to make sure that we also, as parents, hold ourselves accountable for what is available to our students. And because there is a transparent mechanism for us to manage that, I think our board has done an excellent job. I think the other part of that book banning period that was really interesting for me was seeing how the students reacted to that. And again, I'm impressed with our district producing students who spoke so eloquently and with such passion about their opposition to that book ban.
Thank you. Dear Dad, this question will go to you first. Have you ever met a transgender person? What is the best way for schools to accommodate students with gender identity issues?
Okay, so this is again one of those topics I don't think is really not the right way, but I think the school needs to have clear policy and guidelines, right? So making sure that everybody's equity and integrity is honored and the students are not bullied or that their accommodation are provided to them. And I guess making sure the students have the mental support they need, working with their parents, understanding what are accommodation the students need. You know, this is even within the Army right now with transgender issues right now. We had a student last year that was a transgender in uniform in our school house. So I guess making sure that we respect and honor everyone, and also, like I said earlier, as a school board member, we need to communicate with our district, understand our community value and beliefs, and kind of writing the policies and making sure integrity and transparency when it comes to this type of issues, work with experts.
Thank you very much. Your time is up. Thank you. Jan?
Yes, indeed. I know a number of transgender students, and I hope that North Kansas City Schools is a place that they feel welcome, that they belong, that they are respected, and that they are safe. I know, unfortunately, sometimes there are bullying issues in our schools and behavior that is not respectful. And I think that it's really important that we provide opportunities for students that feel threatened or feel uncomfortable, that they have access to counselors, to teachers that will open their doors and listen to them and provide support, and that we triage and provide additional resources to whatever their needs might be. I feel like we have addressed some of these issues in providing more norms around safety and security for any student who they feel different or that they need the affiliation with their fellow students and teachers. Thank you.
Thank you. Brock?
Yes, to the first part. The second part, again, public schools are for everybody, and we need to do our part to ensure all students receive a high quality education, give them the same equal opportunities amongst everyone, give everyone the same opportunities to grow and to learn and to experience things. Of course, this is an important part of teenagers' lives and young people's lives is going to school and having that opportunity for social connection and to grow. So again, public education needs to be for everybody, and everyone should have those equal opportunities. I think when we talk about this issue, it's a great opportunity to bring up mental health as well. Especially amongst LGBTQ plus youth, mental health is a huge problem. And we see there was a recent CDC report that said something like 60% have seriously committed suicide or seriously considered committing suicide. So that's something we need to be aware of and focusing on helping. So
Thank you. Jane?
First part of the question, yes, I have. Second part of a question, how to approach as respectfully as you would any other student or person in the classroom or another human being that you would meet in any kind of social situation. I think the biggest issue seems to be possibly coming from other students. This is where you get into the bullying and the controlling their classmates, and you wind up with a lot of focus on the person that's causing the issue, which is not the transgender person. It's the other individual that for whatever reason feels upset about it. That seems to cause more problems than the actual being respectful toward the transgender person.
Thank you.
Thank
Susan?
you.
Yes, I have, and I think it is public schools that can be the space and should be the space where all kids, all teachers, all staff, everyone feels both psychologically and physically safe in that environment. And it's incumbent upon us to do everything we can to create that environment for both psychological and physical safety. Our identities evolve over time. And I think even our understanding of what our identities are, right, continue to evolve as we understand more about humans and each other. And so it's important that we keep our perspective as broad as possible, that we continue to lean in on reinforcing curiosity and reinforcing inclusive behaviors and modeling for our students and in our community what it actually looks like and feels like to be inclusive.
Thank you. Tammy?
I do know a good deal of transgender people, students, adults alike, and they are approached just like you would approach respectfully anyone, regardless of gender or their gender identity. I think some of the things that go back to the schools, we learn a lot of our identity and we learn a lot of we create a lot of our values while we are in school. So making sure that we have some social emotional learning that is in place that values diversity and inclusion. We all have value. Everyone has value. Perhaps one of the things we could do is to make schools a little bit more gender neutral. Instead of having girls and boys restrooms, maybe we have gender neutral restrooms. It's one of the things that has been pioneered at our new airport. When you go in, you have absolute privacy. However, it is a gender neutral restroom. And other areas could also be gender neutral. So it doesn't call your gender identity into question or call it out to others, so that you have your privacy and you can maintain your own values. Thank you.
Thank you. Roy?
Yes, on the first question. And then on the second question, I think we have to start from just respecting all of our students. And if we understand that us as public schools have to respect each and every individual that comes off in there, then it does change the perspective of how we meet our students. And then actually, are we meeting their individual needs? Then it boils down to, are we seeing them as individuals? And we're not just trying to group them into this one large group or this subgroup or this group, but also understanding them as individuals And like I said, going back to, are we meeting them where they're at so we can truly serve their needs? That is the brilliant part about public education. And one of the other things that I just want to mention while we're talking about that is that's where most folks get exposed to different things and different types of people and just different types of everything. And our schools are very blessed to have that. So now, how do we just continue to keep affirming that and affirming that space for all of our students?
Thank you very much. Joe?
Well, this is a topic that I've thought about quite often. And the answer to the first part of the question is yes, I have known transgender students and individuals. But support for diversity in our schools is really something that will benefit all students. And I actually, again, as I said in the beginning, I've thought about this a lot. Safe and respectful school environments, working hard at doing that. School-wide awareness of diversity and differences, I think, is a tool that can be used. Diversity support groups and committees. Letting diverse and actually all students know that there are safe spaces in our schools. Students know where to go to get help. Professional development and training so that adults can offer the best help. Conversations, sound policies. I think it's important when solutions can't be found to involve the school and parents.
Thank you. And Erin?
Yes, so echoing a lot of the things that I've heard, from my colleagues, but a couple of things come to mind immediately. First of all, first of all, I have met, transgender individuals, students and adults alike. And, we're a very diverse district. And this is, to me, really no different, thinking in terms of, everybody's welcome. The words that came to my mind here are welcome, inclusive, belong, feeling safe. Those are all things that are important for all students. And these students, especially, not especially, but, students they're going through some hard things. All of our students are at that age. I'm making sure that they have access to support, counselors, parents. But another thing, because Tammy brought it up on the gender neutral bathrooms, some of our newer buildings do have gender neutral bathrooms. And I've had some people actually bring that up to me. My daughter's at one of the schools with a gender neutral bathroom. And I'm really proud that the district is actually moving forward and including those in their schools. My daughter doesn't know any different, and they're, floor to ceiling walls and closed doors. And the only part that they share is the sinks to wash their hands. And I think it's fantastic. And I love that we're pushing forward in that direction and including everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. We have time for one more question. And I've been warning people. So Erin, you're up. You're going to be up.
Okay.
Please tell us about an elementary or high school teacher who influenced your desire to be on the school board.
Ooh, yeah, this is a good one because I've got like two that immediately come to mind, but I'll name one. And her name she was my fourth grade teacher, Miss Giacomo. And I actually still talk to her now. And it's kind of funny because she'll be dropping her grandkids off at the high school and I'll be dropping my kids off. And it's still really weird that, 30 years, 40 years later, I'm calling her Mrs. Giacomo. I could probably call her by her first name at this point. But, when I think back to her at that point, always a smile on her face. Like I can still see that smile, loving everybody, very inclusive. This was at Chapel Hill, by the way. She was a fourth grade teacher at Chapel Hill, and just everybody loved to be in that classroom. And that type of thing just inspires me just because I know how many amazing teachers there are and how many kids are being inspired all the time by their teachers and thinking back to those people and letting those people know that, hey, it may have been 35 years ago, but that person is still thinking of you. And I think that's really special. So shout out to Miss Giacomo, Chapel Hill.
Thank you. Susan?
Mrs. Davis, my second grade teacher. And she comes to mind because she really is the epitome of meeting the kids where they're at. So I definitely had attention challenges when I was a kid. She did everything she could to make sure that I was able to get through my assignments. I was able to sit under her desk. I remember having an index card with an envelope that covered every assignment that I finished as I completed it. So I would actually get to go to recess. Otherwise, I was kind of distracted all the time. The other thing that really strikes me about her is that she saw my potential, despite the fact that I was a little bit delayed cognitively because of malnutrition as a kid, joining school later, and was able to see and carry me through to the next level of reading. And so she was just so dedicated and could see everything that I was not yet, but poured herself into me. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. Dear Dad.
All right, this is gonna be an interesting answer. So, like Susan, this is not my first language, right? So I speak 8 languages. I'm originally from Iran. So the person inspired me, the teacher inspired me is actually my father. My father, he's a hematologist, but he was also an art teacher because he used to teach at the elementary school because he loved art. And he was put to a prisoner for his artwork for 5 years in Iran because of women rights cartoon he was doing and initiatives he was doing. So really, he taught me, many life lessons, and he inspired me to who I am today and stand up for what's right. That's why I've been in many volunteer groups since pretty much early on as a teenager, and currently several volunteer organizations, including Alzheimer's Association and Persian in Kansas City and the Army and so on. So one of the things my dad taught me was that, okay, I'm out of time. Thank you.
Thank you, dear Dad. Roy, how about you?
Thank you. I would definitely say both of my parents were teachers. So I'm going to use both of my parents because they both had different skill sets. My father was a gym, health and gym teacher in high school and in middle school, but I didn't. And then my mom was a typing teacher when there was still a certain thing of a typing teacher. And then she transitioned to the Vo-Tech, where she taught pharmacy tech as well as CNA services for vocational services. And I go there because what I remember more so than anything was they would always question, how do these policies affect them in the classroom and how they truly affecting the students? And are the board members really reflective of what's really going on, not only in the classroom, but in the community? So when I say that, I say because I understand those policies affected our household. Those policies affected me, not only just as a person, as a student, but then also my family. So that's why I'm sitting here today and running, because of both of my parents and understanding how those policies affected us all. Thank you.
Thank you. Tammy.
I would have to say it's my 3rd grade teacher, Miss Hardesty. She was an elderly teacher. But at the same time, she had no children of her own, but she believed all of us were her children. She was very involved with us all the way through school. She would offer alternative assignments sometimes because she thought maybe another student needed a challenge or somebody needed a little bit of help or doing something a little bit different. She would do practice reading. When reading circle, we all had to read out loud, which is really scary when you're in 3rd grade because you learn a whole lot of new words as you go through and read these stories. She would do practice reading with some students. So when it came time to go to reading circle, they felt very confident when they would read their passage that was through there. When it came to punishments, I can remember a rainy day where we all stayed in. Teacher was called outside. We wrote all over that chalkboard. And instead of coming in and punishing us, we talked through, why did we do this? What are the consequences of doing this? And what would have been a better choice instead of doing that? I think she taught me a lot, and I want to have the same type of impact on the school district.
Thank you. Brock?
Yeah, I would say my mother. She was a public school teacher prior to me being born, and then when my parents started having children, she stepped back and stayed at home to care for us. She's the person who taught me to read and has been my biggest cheerleader my whole life. Her passion for learning and education has always inspired me. And just she's been an inspiration in so many other ways. She started her own small business and gained further education later in life, both of which inspired me to to continue my education journey and to realize that maybe small business ownership was something I could do. So yeah, just fighting for my mom and trying to live up to her expectations for me. And yeah.
Thank you. Jan.
Yes, well, I would have to name Mr. Hicks, my high school teacher, freshman world history. He was of the Baha'i faith, and it was my first exposure to persons with a different, unique worldview. He challenged me in critical thinking skills. He required deep research and allowed us to share different ideas and debate openly in his class. As a result, I became a foreign exchange student in Colombia. So I also gained a global view and experience, much as I aspired from him. He was an inspiration, I think, continues to be in terms of how I think about high school and the opportunities for our students to have, again, critical thinking skills, to learn how to learn and to love learning. So great inspiration.
Thank you. Jane.
My inspiration was my fourth grade teacher, whose name is also Miss Reinhardt, because it was also my mother, which I don't think they do too much anymore. But she was my fourth grade teacher. She was a firm believer in public education. And she felt if that's where she was getting her paycheck from, that's what she should support. And that's why her children were in public education. And she taught a lot about diversity. We read stories from students in Tahiti and Africa. And this was way back when she was introducing this, that we were all part of a global society, that we all had respect for one another. And along the way, I also had an incredible first grade teacher, Miss Harrison, and Miss Hamilton in the second grade, and Miss Thompson, all of whom gave me an incredible foundation. So that's why I'm on the Board of Education.
Thank you. And Joe.
Well, I had actually 4 people that inspired me. I guess I have a unique perspective. I was a student at Winnetonka High School. I went back to teach at Winnetonka High School. And Mr. Colburn, Miss Cowan, Miss Searle, Miss Douthit, when I left teaching to go into private business, they all said, you need to stay involved. You need to run for the school board. Didn't really think about that, but they said, you ought to run. And they said several things to me. They said, you build relationships, you're a good collaborator, you communicate well with others, you prepare well for what you're doing, you're supportive of others, you understand differences. And I took all of that to heart. And a few years later, I ran for the school board, and I've been very happy with their encouragement all those many years ago.
Thank you. We're almost done. It's time for your 2 minutes closing remarks. I want to personally thank you all for joining us. And in addition, we'd like to ask that you share the League's website with voters and encourage all citizens to show up on each and every election day. Now for our closing remarks, we're going to start with Roy.
Thank you. Thank you for having the opportunity to get a chance to learn more about me. And I really appreciate the opportunity. My name is Roy Copeland again, and I am excited to be running for North Kansas City School Board. I do have 2 daughters in the district, and like I said, I have an 8th grader and I have a 2nd grader, and I'm excited about the longevity that we're going to have here. One of the things that I did was when I put my roots down in Gladstone, from moving from Kansas City up here to Gladstone, I moved my business up here as well too. And I am excited about that, to be able to serve the community, not only on a business perspective, but also a community perspective. What's really big is that I understand I'm not an expert in a lot of these areas. So I do want to bring the experience of listening, because that's what I do day in and day out when I'm meeting folks where they're at and bringing them solutions to help them with their needs that they have. I truly care about making sure that our schools are the best that they can possibly be, but not only the best that they can be for my own children, but for my children's children and everyone else's children that step foot in a North Kansas City school. I'm vested in this not only just because I'm a parent, but because I'm a business owner. I am looking for those next employees that can help me to take this business to the next level and help get them to the next level as well too. But it starts with them having a good basic education. I understand the importance of this because, listen, these seats and what we make decisions on in these seats affect everyone that's involved. And that's something that we don't need to take lightly. I'm also excited to be up here with this slate of candidates, and I thank them for stepping up as well too. I end with saying this. It is upon us to show up in each way that we can possibly show up. And I'm showing up to volunteer and put myself out there and say that I want to help make a difference. My name is Roy Copeland again, and I'm asking for your vote on April the 2nd. Thank you.
Thank you. Jan.
Yes, thank you very much for this opportunity. In 2022, the district hosted community town halls, and at that point, we asked our patrons what they wanted to see in the future of North Kansas City. They asked for authentic leadership, and they also asked for transparency from our board members as well as excellence. In that, I believe that I bring an opportunity not only to listen to the emerging needs and concerns of our community, but to also offer those qualities. Every school board meeting that we have, we are addressing the opportunity and impact all 21,500 kids and all 3,700 teachers and staff. It's very important work, and I take it very seriously. We have a strategic plan that was written, was very inclusive with community, parents, staff, teachers, and administration and board members' input. I believe that being true to that plan, it's a solid plan, and moving forward with those goals is part of my responsibility if I was elected to the school board again. I do believe I bring experience and a steady hand to continue to shape our schools as we become a model district. I believe we are ready to set the pace for 21st century education in the state of Missouri and nationally. And the reveal of the Google program this morning at the news conference put us there in the middle of leadership around those 21st century skills. If elected, I plan to be a collaborator with my colleagues to keep pace with innovative innovations, to address staffing, fiscal, and mental health issues, to remain on the cutting edge of learning opportunities for our students that they are future ready, and to engage with the community to continue to invest in our students as our future workforce. I believe diversity is our asset. I stand ready to be elected and up to the challenge. Please vote for me to elect Jan Kalk in putting kids first. Thank you.
Thank you. Dear Dot?
Thank you, everyone, and the Women League for the opportunity to be here. Again, I'm Dr. Tirda Dai. I'm an educator with passion. I've been doing this for a long time. In addition to my formal education and training, what I will offer the district is my experience, and that's why I got involved. I do have a daughter in district. I've been here in the area for 8 years. And I do have also a national level experience. I have worked at the national level with universities, government organization. I've already produced, and I can show tangible work that produce results. And I think it will be helpful for the district and for the community to have representatives on a school board that can work with the educators and communicate in their language, because of the, I'm an educator myself. I have formal experience as an educator. I also think it's very important to recognize the emotional demands of teaching, provide teacher resources to the teachers so they can maintain the work-life balance and prioritize self-care, offer access to counseling and services to our teachers, and mindfulness programs and wellness initiatives. I think it's very important to support our teachers. It's very important to have parent and community engagement, fostering positive relationship between teachers and parents and wider community by encouraging open communication and involvement in school activities. Saying so, I have 4 pillars in my campaign I will share with you. One is the competitive teacher salaries. Two, alternate funding sources, because I feel like raising taxes should be the last option. Equitable access to resources and community engagement and partnership, and continuous monitoring and involvement. I'm looking forward for your vote on April 2nd. My website is drdai.org, and you can also find me on LinkedIn. Thank you.
Thank you. Jane?
Thank you, first of all, to the League of Women Voters, Anitra, Cheryl, Elizabeth, and Laurel, for giving your time this evening to, and I know dealing with all this technology is maybe not the sort of thing that makes us very comfortable. I would like to express that I'm very grateful to be in a country that allows us to have these kind of forums. Not every country is quite so open these days, and I think we've all seen the results of that recently. I think we're very fortunate to have an incredible slate of candidates running, and I think any one of us would be marvelous to be on the board. I'd like to send a shout out, I guess, to be loyal to my roots. I come from 4 generations of educators, all in the public education field. And I think that's something that's very important to a free democracy. And I also strive a great deal toward excellence. And I think that's something that I supported very much, not only in my own classrooms, with my own debate teams, but things that I'd like to see in this district too. So that's basically where I'm coming from. And I'm not going to take the full 2 minutes because it's not necessary. So thank you all very much for your this evening. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you. Brock?
Yeah, echoing everyone else, thank you for this opportunity. I appreciate this opportunity to speak. I appreciate the questions, and I appreciate this chance to present myself as a candidate for school board. I believe in public education. I believe in the power of public schools to build strong communities. Earlier, we talked about preparing our students to be global citizens. Honestly, I care a lot less about that than I care about preparing our students to get out and make the Northland an amazing place. We live in an amazing part of the world, and I think we recognize how fortunate we are to have the North Kansas City School District in our area. And I want our students to come out and prepared to participate and to continue to build a strong community. We have a strong community, but that will only continue as we have students who are coming out prepared to build. I believe in public education's ability to build strong communities, and I want to champion that. As an attorney, it's my job to champion my clients to make sure they get their best interests and their voices heard. And I would love the opportunity to champion the North Kansas City School District to make sure its voice is heard, to fight for it, and to give it the best possible reputation and the best possible opportunities for all of our students. So thank you all. Thanks for listening and thanks for participating. I'm Brock Foley, and I'd really love your vote on April 2nd. Thanks.
Thank you. Joe?
I'd also like to thank the League of Women Voters for the forum tonight. A former student, former teacher, former board leader, and a current community member. Over the next 3 years, I think experience matters. And that experience will matter I've narrowed it down to 3 reasons. One is we have a new superintendent, and I can provide experienced board leadership during the first years of her tenure. I've had experience with 3 new superintendents, so she would be the 4th, alongside other board members. Secondly, if standard beats learning, I can provide experienced oversight during the multi-year implementation of standards-based learning by asking the right questions, ensuring it is not rushed, and allowing adequate time for understanding and feedback from teachers, staff, and parents, and ensuring that it aligns with mandated Missouri learning standards for student achievement. And lastly, there's a 10-year facility plan that is coming to conclusion, and I can provide my professional expertise of managing, constructing, and improving facilities to help develop the next 10-year plan for the district. I'm Joe Jacobs, running for the 3-year term. I've been supported by NKC or endorsed by NKC NEA and NKC MSTA. And I look forward to serving another 3 years. Again, I'm Joe Jacobs, and I'd appreciate your vote on April 2nd.
Thank you. Tammy?
I'd also like to thank the LWVKC for your time this evening, hosting this forum and giving all of us an opportunity to have our voices heard. I'm running for a seat on the Board of Education because as a parent, a grandparent, and a small business owner, I understand the importance of a high-quality education and strong schools. I believe in the power of relationships between the school district and all members of the community. I'm a relentless champion for all students so they graduate prepared for whatever next steps they're taking. I support the recruitment and retention of the best educators and support staff that we can acquire. I believe in providing infrastructure where learning can take place in a safe and welcoming environment where diversity is celebrated. I understand a regulatory environment and I know how to work collaboratively to get things done in such an environment. I believe in teamwork. We don't have to all row in the same direction, but our destination should still be the same. I understand fiscal responsibility and will work hard to be a good steward of all the funds entrusted to the school district. As you've heard me say several times, I'm passionate about this district and the community. I believe in being approachable, open, and communicative about all the good things and those things that aren't so good. Challenges can be resolved together if we talk them through. My name is Tammy McFerrin. I'm running for a 1-year term. I would be honored to have your vote on April 2nd. Thank you.
Thank you. Erin?
Yes, thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank the League for this event tonight, for the opportunity to speak, and all the work that you all do to encourage voter participation, such important work. So thank you so much for that. I'm really happy to be raising my kids right here in this community in the North Kansas City School District. Even when I taught in another local district, we chose North Kansas City Schools as our home, not only because it's where I went to school, my brothers went to school, and many other family members have gone to school over the last almost 75 years in the area, but because of the programs, the facilities, the diversity, and the opportunity that our kids have here in North Kansas City. I'm so proud of what North Kansas City Schools has become, how I've seen it evolve over all of these years. And I'm always telling everybody, I work out in Johnson County, and I'm always telling everybody what an amazing little corner of the city we live in up here in the community and the schools. That said, there's always going to be work to do. Education is an ever-changing beast. So we always have to be ready to meet those changes, those challenges. I just want to let everybody know that I'm here for the work. I know this is not an easy thing. There's always going to be, it's going to require a lot of energy, a lot of time. But that's something that I'm excited to dig into and really get to know the students, the staff, the teachers all around the district, learn firsthand the needs of the other schools. As I mentioned in my opening, some of my strengths are relationship building, communicating. I was a classroom teacher for many years. I bring the perspective of also being a mother of students, all along the perspective from 8 to 15 years old. As I reflect on the future of North Kansas City, just a few things that I keep in my mind: promoting academic excellence, continuing to strengthen and reassess our programs, fostering inclusivity, embracing and celebrating the diversity that we have, advocating for resources, making sure we're fighting for the necessary resources to support our teachers, and of course, always encouraging innovation, supporting innovative teaching methods and technologies for our students. So thank you so much. My name is Erin Peters, and I'm asking for your vote on April 2nd.
Thank you. And Susan?
Thank you to the League of Women Voters for facilitating and hosting this forum on this platform. I appreciate all of the work that you're doing to engage in this civic dialogue and encourage those who are out there to make informed choices. I am running for school board for 3 reasons. 1, I genuinely believe in the power of public education to transform lives. Public schools are the place where we can connect opportunity with potential. we have so much potential that we don't even realize, we can't even measure in our schools. And it is my great honor to be a part of the board today to help us continue to connect all of that student potential with the opportunities that public education affords. The second reason I'm running is because of the students. I have been inspired by them. I am motivated by them. I have 2 students myself, a kindergartner and a 3rd grader. And so I've been so impressed with the students in the district, whether showing up at a board meeting to express their opinions and how they're dealing with the policy, or just being out in the field and listening to the types of questions and seeing all the different ways that they're already contributing to the community. And third, I'm just so impressed with the district's ability to evolve over time. The environment of Northtown, when my grandmother graduated in 1938, approximately 100 years ago, is a very different environment than the high school that my kids are going to graduate from. And I just love that. I love that story. I love that I'm part of that story. And I love that all of that diversity and difference and change that has been brought and part of this community is part of our story and how we are showing up in the world and also locally as a beacon and a model for what's possible when we connect, again, opportunity with potential. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks to all of you candidates. I think the voters of North Kansas City will have their work cut out for them selecting the new board. I want to also thank my colleagues, Cheryl Barnes, who's our timer, and Laura Mountjoy, who has been the tech host. And now I'm going to turn things back over to Anitra.
Thank you, audience, for your interest in the April 2nd election. A recording of this forum will be available on the League's website, lwvkc.org. Please take a moment to share our forums via your Facebook, Nextdoor, and other social media channels. And remember, for voting and candidate information, go to lwvkc.org and vote411.org for clear, concise, comparable information and a copy of the ballot you individually will be voting on. Thank everyone. Thank you and good night.
Night.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night.